Hello, I'm Wendy from Plymstock U3A. Today we'll be learning how to make two different things using air dry clay that you can get from any craft shop. So the first one is a trinket dish that you can give as a gift for Christmas. And the second one, some tree decorations, which are perfect to hang on your tree at Christmas. So let's get started. Firstly, I'm going to show you how to make a jewellery trinket bowl like this one. So the tools we're going to need to do this are some air dry clay, a glass tumbler, 2 pots of water, a bowl, a cutter, some leaves from the garden freshly picked. Today I'm going to use rosemary, sandpaper, moulding tools, a tool to lift your rosemary out, paintbrushes and acrylic paints. There are 2 stages to this. The first part of stage 1 is to roll out the clay. It's important that it doesn't dry out. I would recommend that anybody at any age should get into crafting because primarily it's so good for your mental health. Because you get so wrapped up in it, it's just a fantastic thing to get involved in. Here we have the glass to gently roll it out. Put pressure on it until you eventually end up with about 1/4 inch thickness. If it does dry out a little bit as you're doing it, you can just add a touch of water. So we take the rosemary, we'll try 2 pieces with this one, lay it on centrally, and with your tumbler you add pressure but not too pressure so that the rosemary is just making an indent. Use a tool and very gently lift the rosemary so that you can see the indentation of the leaves. Make sure when you're cutting it that you get it fairly centrally, or you could have it to the side, if it depends what sort of design you want to do. Press it down really well. That's perfect, that's come off in my hand. Then you use one of these little tools to gently lift it from your flat surface. And a little tip here, before we get on to stage 2, is to have a little bit of water, go around the edges with your finger, just smooth it out. I'm quite happy with that. Then, any little Sunday dish or bowl, lay it very carefully in the middle. And what you want to do is to just press it very gently because you don't want to put any finger marks. I will leave this to dry now for 72 hours. So that will go somewhere warm to dry. The clay will become white on the upside and the bottom side, and I can see this is. So then we need to gently remove it from the dish. Just give it a little push and it should come out quite easily, yeah. And now we need to refine it before we do the painting. So get a little bit of sandpaper here, just fine sandpaper for this one. As I'm going round, I use a stiffer brush just to wipe off the excess. And that pretty much is ready for painting. So we have green and some white. Get the colour completely to your liking. I find it easier to do top downwards like this. You can introduce a darker shade of the green and it should actually start to replicate that rosemary as it is in nature. It doesn't matter if you've gone over the shape slightly because, as I say, nothing in nature is perfect. So that will need now to dry for probably about an hour. It doesn't take very long. So there we have it. That's a nice little gift to give to friends or family for Christmas or whenever, for birthdays. And the other thing is that it's unique. So the second thing we're going to make today are some Christmas tree decorations. I made this with my granddaughter, she loved it, and it's just in time for Christmas. So what we're going to need for this is some air dry clay, green and white paint, moulding tools, paintbrushes, a straw, sandpaper, 2 pots of water, a cutter, some ribbon, and a glass tumbler for rolling out, and some greaseproof paper. So we're rolling again till we get about 1/4 of an inch thickness. Christmas tree. Press really hard so you get a clean cut. Just gently poke it through. There we are. And again, don't worry if you've got little bits on the side because we can smooth them with water. But before we do that, we're going to make some textural marks on it that makes it look a little bit realistic. You can do lines if you want, make it a little bit more interesting. And these tools are really good to make the textural marks that the paint will seep into later, and it makes the tree that little bit more interesting. If you don't have one of these tools, you can use a sharp knife or you can use a sharp needle. I'm sure you'll find something that you can use. And the next thing to do is to make the hole that you're going to put the ribbon in. You can use any sort of tool that you've got from your kitchen drawer that's going to make a nice hole. And the clay usually comes out with the straw. So again, just go around the edges with a little bit of water on your finger. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and I just like to use a flat tray with a piece of greaseproof paper on it, just to make sure it doesn't stick to the tray and that it lays really, really flat. You just need to watch for the clay to turn white. Once it's turned white that side, you carefully lift it over and let the other side dry. And that's that stage completed. So now it's dry, we're going to start the second stage, which is the sanding of the edges. So I'm just going to put the end of a paintbrush through there, just to get rid of all the excess pieces. Brush it down. And now we're ready to paint. So we can go straight on, and if you can see there, the paint actually seeps into the lines I've made, which makes it texturally really pretty. This is fairly quick, you can put the paint on fairly quickly. And don't forget to do the edges. If you want to introduce, again, a slightly darker tint here and there, you can do. Don't forget to actually put your paintbrush in the hole that we're going to use for the ribbon. As you develop your skills, you become far more confident to try anything. You can be so creative, and it's something that once you start, you don't want to stop. So now I'm painting the pot, and while I've got that white paint, I'm just going to put a few strokes of white just to look like snow. So now we will leave that, as before, to dry for about an hour, and then we'll turn it over and just paint the other side. So while this one's drying, here's one I made earlier. So the finishing touch now is have a little hanging ribbon. So I've knotted one end, I'll put the loop through, and there we are, there's your tree finished. Here's one I made again earlier, showing you a different design. So you can get creative and do whatever design you like on your little trees. And now they're ready to hang on your family tree. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy giving these gifts to your friends and family at Christmas and hanging these decorations on your tree. And I wish you a very Merry Christmas.